because of the growth of the roots in the dark. And again, these days are the winter of the soul, but spring comes and brings new life and beauty because of the growth of the roots in the dark. I welcome all of you here today for the 32nd Healing After Suicide Loss Conference. First time ever as a virtual conference on the internet, imagine. I'm so grateful to all of our speakers who came before today, who have spent this entire day sharing their wisdom. And that's what it is wisdom. On your screen, you see happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light. Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light. And so the wisdom that you've heard this day will stay with you forever. But it was hard won for all of them because everyone has their own story. Their story of loss and grief and of recovery and backsliding and moving forward and going back and having a roller coaster journey. But now there is such inspiration in all of the speakers prior to this moment. There's such love in all of those faces and those hearts. And so I am blessed and honored to be able to be the MC for this healing conference today. This is all new, and we're grateful for the glitches in the technology because it teaches us. It helps us to learn to do it differently. And we're grateful for the successes, for the fact that you can see people's faces, you can see us, and you can hear us. So the theme of today is the Wizard of Oz. And some of you may be questioning what could possibly be in common with suicide loss and grief and the Wizard of Oz and the coronavirus. What could possibly connect all of those issues? Well, I think you'll see, and you can explore even after our ceremony is open, because this will just inspire you, I hope, to think of other connections, other meanings of these three issues. But I know that the Tin Man needed a heart. I know that the Scarecrow needed a brain. I know that the lion needed courage. And isn't that what we need in our journey through the coronavirus, on top of the loss of a loved one to suicide? Suicide loss and grief is an issue of its own, so impactful, so life-changing, that as you've heard other speakers say today, that it is awesome and daunting to even think of surviving that event, or to even think of it happening in your life. So don't we need a brain to be smart about how we respond to the grief and the loss and the virus? Don't we need to be really using our brain so that we don't act impulsively? And don't we need a heart like the Tin Man needed, so that you can have compassion in your life and you can be open to the pain of others as well as your own and not be judgmental? And the lion needed courage. And I believe that's what we need today with the virus. Many of us are alone, isolated, having had other deaths of friends, family. We're alone in isolation often, some of us. Some are still in family groups. But don't we need a brain? Don't we need a heart? Don't we need courage? And Dorothy wanted to go home. And I guess many of us are at home. Some of us may be wanting to leave home at this point. But we all love our homes and feel comfort and safe there, or most of us do. Not everyone, of course. So how can we take the wisdom from the Wizard of Oz into our own lives? How can we find a way to know that we have the skills and the tools to survive? That after suicide loss, and with the coronavirus and the Wizard of Oz, we need those skills. And if we can remember them at a time when we're feeling such strong emotions, perhaps we might have the skills to get us through this difficult time in our lives. I think that some of us forget that we have resources within, because look what happened in The Wizard of Oz. They went looking and seeking for answers from the wizard, believing that they did not have answers for themselves. And when you're first facing a suicide, you don't have answers. You don't believe that you know anything. You may feel dumb, have no brains, you have no courage, you have no heart. You may feel so devastated that you don't even want to go on living. But when you hear from people like our previous speakers, you know you can survive, that you can make a choice, that you have brains to make decisions about how you handle this loss and how you ask for help. Helping is a wonderful thing to do and to learn. But if you only look outside yourself, you may be missing an inner resource that you need to call on. And so I'm suggesting that we find a balance between looking out and asking for help outside of yourself and looking within. And perhaps that's what we learn from the Wizard of Oz. Because all four, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Lion, and Dorothy, all were looking outside of themselves to get what they needed and to go to the wizard and receive the answer. And yet, when Toto, the little dog, pulled back the curtain and found that it was all a fake, that the wizard was a fake, not even real, not authentic, no heart, no brains, no courage, he was hiding behind the curtain. And so what did they learn? They learned they already had the skills, even though the skills might have been obliterated by the pain, the confusion, the anguish, the misery that they were feeling, and the hopelessness and even helplessness. But what they learned was if they could find the balance between asking for help, which is so important to do, as well as looking inside of themselves for their own wisdom. What a gift that can be. We all have the wicked witch. The wicked witch could be the suicide or the virus or something outside of you or something awful. The wicked witch could be that symbol for you. And the flying monkeys who took away Dorothy and Toto, the little dog. And there's always a monkey, a flying monkey that can come in and grab you and try to take you away. But in the long run, what happened? They all got exactly what they wanted. The scarecrow got brains. And the Tin Man got a heart, and the lion got courage, and Dorothy got to go home. But they all learned that they had wisdom within them, that they had all those aspects within them. And you too can learn that if you will remember those wonderful words. I'm hoping that during this ceremony for all of us, that we'll be reminded there are many words that give you hope and healing and give you the wisdom that you need to survive all of the events that are troublesome and painful and sad in our lives. And so I would like to bring this home in a little different way. I would like us to take our candles and get the candle out so that we can remember our loved one, because we'll never, ever forget them. But some people fear that they will forget them. So let's bring out our candle and let's light the candle in the name of our loved one. So I will count 1, 2, 3, and on the count of 3, we will light our candles. Not yet, let's do it in a minute, all together. And imagine that you're seeing 1,200 people, or however many there are on this internet call, that all of them are lighting a candle in honor of their loved one, lest we ever forget. And so we'll do that with great love in our hearts, with our hearts open, with our wisdom of knowing this is a ceremony that will help us remember. And with courage, we do this because some of us are in such deep, intense grief at this moment. So I'm going to light my match and count to 3. 1, 2, 3. The symbolism of the candle can be a light, as we said in one of the poems that was read earlier, that you have to remember to turn on the light, because in the dark, there is no light. I love the idea of 2 rooms, say in a hotel, 2 rooms side by side. One room is totally dark. The other room is light. If you open the door between the 2 rooms, the light goes into the dark. The dark does not go into the light. So think of this candle representing light that you need in your life, with your being smart, with your having a heart and compassion for yourself and others, and for the courage that you need to go on this journey. And for Dorothy, who needed to go home, to find her family, to appreciate them more than she had before, because before she was dreaming, before the tornado or the hurricane, she was dreaming about other places and how wonderful it would be to go to other places, which it is. But sometimes we need to appreciate our home, our family, and our loved ones, and the safety of all of that. Prayerfully that there is that safety. So there's a poem I'd like to read to you. It's one that you've heard me say before, and I'm hoping I can remember it by heart, but it's called A Resolution. To live today as though it were my last. And I can have the book, please, so I can be reminded of the words. To live today as though it were my last, to spend it royally, yet with reason, to live happily, love passionately, regret frequently, yet to kiss the place that felt the thorn because of the rose, to treat with all men and women openly, honestly, reservedly, and at the last, to keep myself in that frame of mind which enables one to lie down to his rest, conscious of no great evil done to his fellow man, and humbly grateful for the opportunity of having done some little good in this world. I love that poem. And when I was a teenager, I found it on a telephone booth, believe it or not, in New York City. And I love it because it's a resolution to remind me to live today as though it were my last, to spend it royally yet with reason, to live happily, love passionately, regret frequently, yet to kiss the place that felt the thorn because of the rose, to treat with all men and women openly, honestly, reservedly, and at the last, to keep myself in that frame of mind which enables one to lie down to his rest, conscious of no great evil done to his fellow man, and humbly grateful for the opportunity of having done some little good in this world. And now what I'd like to do is to do the representation of the past, the present, and the future with our loved one. Again, I'm going to light the candles for all of us. I don't expect you to have 3 candles. So symbolically, I don't know if you can see these candles. There they are. So I'm going to light my match and light the first candle for the past. We have good memories and we have not so good memories. And so I want us to remember the past and remember good times. Think for just a moment of a wonderful time you had with your loved one, a funny time, a wonderful time. Take a minute to do that. And now I'm going to look at the present. The present is chaos in the moment. Our country is crazed. We're upside down. But we are in the present. It is the truth. It is a fact. And so we light this candle to remind us of the truth of the moment. And then we'll light the future. The future candle represents whatever we want it to be. Look at the people who were so loving in the earlier part of this. Think of them. Think of what they gave you today. They gave you their story. They gave you hope. They gave you the inspiration that they too can survive. You can survive and even thrive again. You can make meaning of your loss and help other people. When I was in Hubbard, Iowa, doing a talk one time, a minister said there were some things he wanted everyone to remember in how to live their lives. He said, live in service, live without judgment, and live in forgiveness. Oh, wow. The first one I think is easy. Just about everybody watching today lives in service. You help someone, you do a kind favor, you open your heart, and you help them. And so to live without judgment is much more difficult. It's common to judge. We all make discernments and judgments, but what if we could not make a judgment and could just go on accepting people as they are and issues as they are and have a choice about what we do with them? So live in service, live without judgment, and live in forgiveness. I think that's the hardest one. But I needed to learn to forgive my son. My son was 20 years old, Mitch Bolton. He ended his life after the breakup of a girlfriend. And he was very similar to the story that Donna told. And I'm very touched by that, Donna, by your sharing. And what I've had to learn is that forgiveness of my son, because I did not want him to do this act. I did not want that to happen. I didn't know anybody that had happened to. Back in 1977, suicide was not mentioned, never even discussed. And so I had to learn to forgive first myself for what I thought I had done or not done, and also to forgive him and to forgive others that might have influenced his choice to give up on life. And I had lost the choice to give up on life, even though I didn't know if I could go on living with the pain that I was experiencing. There was no one to stand in front of me and say, you will survive, you can, look at me, I have. There was nobody because nobody talked about it. But now, today, we can talk about it. And the wisdom that you heard from your speakers today will stay with me forever. I learn more from others who've been through this trauma than I do from any book or any class or seminar. I learn it from others who care. So I want to close today by reading one other poem for you. And it comes from my book, My Son, My Son. And it's a poem you've heard so many times, but everybody says, oh, please end with your poem. And it's a poem called Why. I think most of us question why. We don't understand why. So I'm going to read this to you. And as I read it, open your heart, use your mind to think how best you can survive, what skills you need, and find the courage to talk about this terrible event, being the death, suicide of a loved one. And look at the coronavirus and think the same things with your mind, with your heart, with your courage, and being at home with yourself. Let these words float over you, bring you comfort, and know that you are loved, you are cared for, and that we are together in this. Some good things have come out of this virus and this isolation. Some good things will come from the death of your loved one, even though you may not see that now. I want to commend the people who are on this conference call, for those of you who came, who had the courage to come and deal with it openly and honestly and learn from the wisdom of others. And I applaud the people on the panel, the people who shared intimately and openly with their thoughts, their minds, their hearts totally open, and their courage. And I'll close with this poem. I don't know why. I'll never know why. I don't have to know why. I don't like it. I don't have to like it. What I do have to do is make a choice about my living. What I do want to do is accept it and go on living. The choice is mine. I can go on living, valuing every moment in a way I never did before, or I can be destroyed by it and in turn destroy others. I thought I was immortal, that my family and my children were also, and the tragedy happened only to others. But I now know that life is tenuous and valuable, so I'm choosing to go on living, making the most of the time I have, valuing my family and friends in a way never possible before. And let's close with the beautiful flute music from my friend Gentle Thunder. That's really her name. She's a Grammy nominee, and her gift to the world is playing the flute. Our gift to the world may be our survival, so that we can find ways to go on living, to write stories, to write books, to play music, to paint, to do whatever you know to do to survive. I wish you all well. Know you're loved. This conference is until next time.
So I just want to say that I didn't get to introduce Iris Bolton, but that was Iris Bolton. And for the Wizard of Oz, I would say that she is the embodiment of hope. Thank you, Iris, so much. There have been questions about resources. There's been questions about questions. We're going to compile them all, email you out resources that people have been talking about today. I wish you luck on this journey that we're all going through right now with the pandemic. I wish you strength in your grief. And Iris, I would love for you to have the last word. Take care of yourselves, everybody. We're so thankful that you've been here. Iris?
I want to thank you and everyone who was involved in doing this, because you could have canceled the whole thing. So I thank AAS, AFSP, and TAPS for everyone there who has worried about it and struggled over do it or not do it. I believe your decision was right to do it. And you helped so many people. And Vanessa, you set the tone. Your spirit and your love comes through even on a laptop. And I believe that laughter is something that helps us heal as well. So I know there's been laughter about the glitches and laughter about other things behind the scenes, and all that's good. The failures are, or the technologies that don't work are learning. They teach us, they're learning tools. So as we go home, and or most of us are home, but as we close the ceremony, please take care of yourself, everybody. This has been a long day. It's always an emotional day. It brings up all kinds of memories. So take care of yourself, take a hot, warm bath or shower, talk to somebody, debrief the whole conference with a friend on the phone. Do whatever you know to do to take care of yourself. And again, my thanks to all the panelists. I am so impressed, and I love you all so much for your wisdom, for your willingness to share. God bless you all. Thank you. Mwah.